Hi everyone, my name is Divya. So today we are going to see a very interesting topic, that is animal kingdom. This is not only a very interesting topic, but this is a very important topic for our NEET sections. Okay. So first of all, tell me which all organisms comes under animal kingdom. So just basic characters we will tell what are the characters. First one, they should be eukaryotic organisms. Then they should have a multicellular level of organization. They should be multicellular. Then they should not produce their own food. They should be heterotrophic organisms. They should depend on some organisms for their food, right? Then they should not have cell wall. So all the eukaryotic multicellular organisms which do not have a cell wall and which do not prepare their own food comes under animal kingdom. So first we are going to see what are the characteristics of animal kingdom. So animals can move and they can also do locomotion. So what do you mean by moving and locomotion? So we have another chapter in this year only, that is movement and locomotion, but still we'll see here what is movement and locomotion. Now I am standing still here, I am moving my hands are moving, I am talking, so my muscles are moving, right? So this is what is called as movement. Now I am moving from this place to this place, I changed my position, I got displaced, and this is what is called as the locomotion. So these animals that are coming under animal kingdom can have movement as well as locomotion. Then organisms that do not have cell wall and plastids. Why does plastids come here? Because plastids are the cell organelles that are found only in plants, and cell wall is also the special characteristics of plants. Now we are going to learn about our animal kingdom, so they won't be having this cell wall and plastids which are the characteristics of plants, right? Then the third one is they are heterotrophic, and since they cannot prepare on their own food. So plants are autotrophic and they can prepare their own food, and animals, since they do not have chloroplast, they do not have chlorophyll, they cannot prepare their own food, and these organisms are called as heterotrophs. And next it is they are having excretory system, sense organs, then as well as neurological systems. Even the primitive organisms like our hydra, they also have their neurological systems. Even though it is basics, they have their neurological system, they have their nervous system in a simpler method, okay, a simpler way. Then coming to the generally reproduction in these organisms are sexual in higher organisms, but still lower organisms do have a sexual reproducing methods also. So most of them they have sexually reproducing, but there are organisms that are having a sexual reproduction also. Now these animals are classified, this animal kingdom is classified into 11 phylums. Phylum Porifera, Coelenterata, Ctenophora, Aschelminthus, Platyhelminthes, Annelida, Arthropoda, Echinodermata, Hemimollusca, Hemichordata and Chordata. Okay, so these 11 phylums are present in the animal kingdom. So kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. These are the hierarchy, right? In that, under this kingdom, animal kingdom, we have major 11 phylums. Under this phylums there are different classes also, but in this chapter we are mainly dealing with the 11 phylums. So now we are going to see on what basis these animals are divided into these 11 phylums. Okay, so from Porifera, which is the primitive animals, to the phylum Chordata, which includes even as human beings the most complex organisms. So the first method or the first characteristics used to classify these organisms is the level of organization. So what do you mean by level of organization is the animal's body composition, how they are made, what type of composition they have. First one is cellular level of organization. So whenever you come to know about cellular level, what do you mean by cellular level? Cell means just a single cell, right? So here cellular level of organization means organisms just they have different cell aggregate together to form these organisms. These cells do not come together for a single function. So they do not form any tissues. Each individual cells perform their own function, but still they all are together and formed a single organism. This is cellular level of organization. And the most primitive organisms in animal kingdom comes under the cellular level of organization, and that is the first phylum, that is phylum Porifera, and this is the only phylum which contains cellular level of organization. and in the coming classes you will be learning more about each and every phylums in this animal kingdom. Next we have the tissue level of organization. So what do you mean by tissue level of organization? We have learnt in our smaller classes that tissues are group of cells which perform a common function. That is a simple definition of tissue. So what does tissue level of organization means? These are organisms who are little more higher than our cellular level of organization. That is, there in these organisms the cells aggregate together to form a tissues which follow a particular function or which does a particular function. So that is tissue level of organization, and the organisms coming under that is phylum Coelenterata and Ctenophora. So these two phylums comes under the tissue level of organization. Coming to organ level of organization, here what happens is different tissues which perform a common function, right? These will come together to form a organ. Simply if you are taking our organ, that is the stomach. We are taking a organ stomach. It has many layers. Like outer layer is there, inner layer is there, many different layer, mucosa, submucosa, different layers are there. Each layer is made up of different types of tissues also, right? So that is why organs, different tissues will come together to form a particular organ to perform a function. Then organisms coming under this is Platyhelminthes, and this is the only group of organisms that contain organ level of organization. Then coming to the organ system level of organization. So when we come to organ system level of organization, here different organs that all together comes for a single function or single system function comes under this organ system. Let us take our digestive system itself. Mouth, only mouth if you are taking, we have teeth, tongue, gums, everything are present, and these all are made up of different tissues. Then coming to the esophagus, it is made up of another type of tissue. Coming to stomach, it is made up of another type of tissue. Then intestine, but all these organs, different organs came together to perform a single function, that is digestion. So that is what is called as organ system level of organization, and organisms coming under organ system level of organization is, in our NCERT it is given in the initial stages, that is Annelida to Chordata, but inside our textbook when we come to Aschelminthes, clearly it is given Aschelminthes also have organ system level of organization. So from organ system level of organization we can tell Aschelminthes to Chordata organisms comes under organ system level of organization. Now these are the level of organization based on which organisms are classified. Then coming to the next basis on which the classification was done is based on their body symmetry. So what do you mean by body symmetry? When an organism can be divided into equal parts through a single plane or many plane, or sometimes they cannot be divided into equal parts. So based on this, organisms are divided into three. One is asymmetrical, then we have radially symmetrical organism, and the third one is the bilateral symmetrical organism. So first we will see who are asymmetrical organism or what is asymmetry. When an organism which cannot be divided into any equal parts or two equal parts through any plane, these type of organisms are called as asymmetrical organisms. So asymmetrical organisms, example here is phylum Porifera, are simplest animal organisms coming under animal kingdom, but there are certain poriferans which are radially symmetrical also, but still most of the poriferans are asymmetrical, or most of the sponges are asymmetrical here. Now coming to the second, that is radial symmetry or radially symmetrical organisms. An organism, if it can be divided into two equal parts through any plane passing through their body. Okay, so let us take a circle. A circle can be divided into two equal parts through any plane, right? So likewise, there are organisms which can be divided into two equal half through any plane or more than one plane passing through their body. Example, we have the starfish here, that is, many other examples are there like Coelenterata, Echinodermata, many organisms are there, and echinodermates are a small exception cases. Echinodermates comes under a higher organism, but still they have radial symmetry, but an exception is their larvae comes under bilateral symmetry. So what is bilateral symmetry? Bilateral symmetry means an organism can be divided into two equal parts through a single plane passing through the center. Like let us take an example, we human beings itself. Our body can only be divided into two equal halves through this plane, right? Can we divide like this and make two equal parts? No, right? So we can only divide through this plane to make it into two equal parts. So that is what is called as bilateral symmetry. Bi means two. So an organism can be divided into only two equal parts only through a single plane. Like human beings, insects like arthropods. So comes Annelida, Arthropoda, Echinodermata, Mollusca, Hemichordata, Chordata. All the higher organisms have bilateral symmetry except for echinodermates, because echinodermate adult are radial symmetry but larvae is bilaterally symmetry. Okay. So the next type of class was next based on which the classification was done as based on the germ layers present. So what are germ layers? These are embryonic layers formed in our body, and these embryonic layers will get differentiated into different body parts, like ectoderm will become the skin or nervous system, endoderm will become our gut and alimentary canal, mesoderm will become our muscular system, skeletal system. So likewise, there are three germ layers present in our embryonic stage which get differentiated into different body organs or organ systems. Okay, so there are three germ layers in our body when we were in the embryonic stage. One is ectoderm, which is the outermost layer. Ecto means outer, ectoderm is outermost layer. Then we have the middle, mesoderm. Mesoderm comes at the middle layer. Then the endoderm, which is the innermost. Endo means inner, which is the innermost layer. So ectoderm, mesoderm, then endoderm. So based on the presence of these three germ layers, organisms are classified into two: diploblastic organisms and triploblastic organisms. So the lower organisms or primitive organisms comes under the diploblastic organism, and the higher organisms comes under the triploblastic organisms. Okay. So what is diploblastic organism? Diploblastic, di means two. So diploblastic organism will have only two germ layers. Which all germ layers means that are ectoderm and endoderm will be present. Ectoderm and endoderm will be present. So ectoderm, endoderm, two germ layers. But where does this mesoderm go? Mesoderm is not there present, but instead of mesoderm, they have a fluid filled space between them called as the mesoglia, and this is the characteristic features of diploblastic organisms. And example here is the Coelenterata and Ctenophora. Then coming to the triploblastic organism. So organisms with a organ level of organization can be considered as the triploblastic organisms. Okay, so these triploblastic organisms have all three germ layers present, that is ectoderm, endoderm and mesoderm. Triploblastic, three germ layers. Okay, so triploblastic organisms, example Platyhelminthes to Chordata. Now another basis of the classification was based on the presence or absence of coelom. Coelom means body cavity. So what is the proper definition of a coelom or a body cavity? A coelom is cavity that is covered by mesoderm. Simply if a hole is present is not a coelom. A coelom is a body cavity that is lined by mesoderm. So based on the presence of this coelom, organisms are again divided into three categories. One is acoelomate, then we have pseudocoelomate, and we have the coelomate organisms. So first we will see who all are the coelomate organisms. Coelomate organisms will have all the three germ layers, that is ectoderm, endoderm and mesoderm. Okay, and their mesoderm will be split and a cavity will be formed which will be lined by the mesoderm. So ectoderm will be there, mesoderm lined body cavity will be there, then we have the endoderm. So like that we will have the body structure of a coelomate, and examples are, we have from Annelida to Chordata, all the organisms comes under a coelomate. Then coming to a pseudocoelomate. What do you mean by pseudo? Pseudo means false. So what does a pseudocoelomate means? It is an organism which have a cavity but not a proper body cavity. Their body cavity is not completely lined by mesoderm, and instead this mesoderm is found in patches. So when this mesoderm is found in patches, mesoderm is there but mesoderm is not completely filling the body cavity. So they became the pseudocoelomate, and there is only one single phylum organisms that are having the pseudocoelomate or pseudocoelom, that is the phylum Aschelminthes. Then coming to acoelomate, organisms that do not have a body cavity or their mesoderm is not split. This type of organisms is called as the acoelomates, and Platyhelminthes is an example of acoelomate organisms. Now, based on the digestive system, circulatory system, body metabolism, notochord, all these characters are taken into consideration while we are classifying these organisms. So, digestive system is of two types. One is complete and incomplete digestive system. Complete digestive system has two openings, that is we have mouth as one opening and anus as another opening. But in incomplete digestive system, only a single opening is present through which the food is taken in, and it is given out only through a single opening. So that is called as incomplete digestive system. Then circulatory system, two types is there. One is open circulatory system and closed circulatory system. Based on this also classifications are done, and closed circulatory system is only present in Annelida and Chordata. All other phylums contain open circulatory system. So Annelida and Chordata are the only two phylums that have closed circulatory system. Then coming to metameric segmentation. Metameric segmentation is just division of a body externally or internally, and each segment will be identical. So such organisms which contain such division are called as metamerically segmented organisms. And there are only three phylums which contains this metameric segmentation, that is Arthropoda, then Annelida and Chordata. Okay, so Annelida, Arthropoda and Chordata are the only phylums which has this metameric segmentation. Then finally, the presence of notochord. It is the mesodermally derived rod-like structure which is present in the dorsal side during the embryonic stage. Once we are developed, this notochord will get replaced by a bony or cartilaginous vertebral column or an endoskeleton. Okay, so here animals are divided into two based on the presence or absence of notochord. Organisms that contain notochords are called as the chordata, and organisms which do not have this notochord is called as the non-chordata. So the 10 phylums from Porifera to Hemichordata are coming under phylum non-chordata or non-chordates, and the phylum Chordata is the only phylum that is having this notochord present, and this is the basic or best example or best characteristic that divide chordates and non-chordates. So now we have a small flow chart that is given in your NCERT to summarize what we have learned till now. So what is animal kingdom? Animal kingdom is divided into two based on their body level of organization. First cellular level, and then we divided them tissue, organ and organ system into the next level. Okay, cellular level of organization, only one example comes, that is Porifera. They are having mostly asymmetrical structure and they are acoelomates. Coming to your organ system level of organization, two types of symmetry is there, radial symmetry and bilateral symmetry. In radial symmetry also acoelomate, they are acoelomate because they do not have mesoderm present. So obviously they will be acoelomate. So coelenterator and pterophora comes under the acoelomate. Coming to bilateral symmetry, acoelomate, pseudocoelomate and coelomates are there. Acoelomate, only platyhelminthes are there because the mesoderm is not split. Pseudocoelomate, since they do not have completely lined body cavity with coelom, so they are called as mesoderm, that is they are called Aschelminthes. And coelomates from Annelida to Chordata, they have proper divided or coelom present. And here in bilateral symmetry, echinodermates, adult echinodermates are radial symmetry and larval echinodermates are bilateral symmetry. So this is what are the basis on which animals are classified into 11 phylums in animal kingdom. So next class we will be learning each and every phylum in detail. So I hope you all understood this class. Thank you.